Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make another rolled ice-dyed shirt. And this design was inspired by Mark from Psychedelic Serenity Tie Dye. These shirts turn out really cool, but this is my first time trying a design like this on a long sleeve shirt. I'm starting with the shirt turned inside out, and I'm going to grab one corner of the shirt and fold it up past the opposite shoulder of the shirt, kind of folding the shirt in half diagonally. Then using a washable marker, I'm going to make myself a wavy line on the shirt. This is the line that I'm going to use kind of as a guide for when I roll the shirt. As far as the line goes, you can make straight lines, wavy lines, you can put the lines wherever you want on the shirt. This design is super versatile, and of course, when you change any one of these aspects, it's going to change a little bit about the way the shirt ends up looking. This is a fun design to experiment and mess around with, so feel free to, just do your own thing with this design. I'm going to start rolling the shirt just really tightly right on this line. And if you'll notice, I'm causing the rest of the shirt or encouraging the rest of the shirt to roll at the same time that I'm rolling on this line. I have the line rolled, but I do have some fabric on either side of this rolled area that is not rolled into the rest of the design. That's the long sleeves. So I'm going to put a few rolls or kind of twist that part of the fabric. And then the line that I drew on the shirt and I rolled, I'm going to fold that in half. So it's going to fold the shirt in half right on that line. After I fold the shirt in half, I have one area, which is one of the sleeves, which is hanging a little bit longer than the other one. I'm going to fold that up and into the rest of the shirt, kind of making both of those sleeves or both of those sides of the fold end at the same place. Now I'm going to use some kite string to hold this roll design in place. After I tied this design, I got really busy, and so the design sat for probably about 2 weeks before I got to applying dye to it. So it was completely dry by the time I applied the dye. It doesn't need to be. You can actually apply the dye to this design while it's still damp if you'd like to. I wanted to use some dye colors that have some pretty good dye splits. So today I've chosen a color palette of Pro Chemical and dye colors. For my setup, I am going to incline this shirt. So I'm going to take the shirt and put it down inside of a piece of vinyl guttering. And then to make sure the shirt doesn't totally slide out of the guttering when I incline it, I'm going to attach a piece of kite string to the end. And then I'm going to attach the piece of kite string to the end of the piece of vinyl guttering with a metal clip. Now I'm going to use a washable marker and I'm going to make some marks where I'd like to apply the dye. These are just kind of loose guidelines so that as I'm applying the dye, I have a little bit of a clue where to put it. I've chosen 5 colors, so the first mark I'm going to make is right in the middle, and then I'm going to make 2 marks on either side. Then because the shirt is completely dry, I'm going to lightly spray it with a little bit of a soda ash solution that I've placed inside of a spray bottle. I also have some excess space on the lower portion of the shirt inside of the vinyl guttering. So to kind of fill in some of that space, I'm going to use a strip of plastic cutting board that I'm going to place beside the shirt, and then a small dye bottle beside the cutting board to hold it up close to the shirt. The first dye color that I'm going to use from Pro Chemical is Spicy Plum, and I'm going to apply that down at the very end where I folded the shirt in half. On the other lines, I'm going to use Wedgwood Blue, Eggplant, Stormy Sky, and rose wine. And I'm going to leave a little bit of white in between each one of the colors so that will allow the dye some space to move when I incline it. Now I'm going to add a little bit of additional dry soda ash over the top of the dye and add on some ice. To incline the shirt, I'm going to place one end of this vinyl guttering down inside of a plastic tote, and I'm going to leave the other end hanging off the edge. If you'll notice, I didn't add a lot of ice to the top portion of the shirt, because when I incline it, I'm going to add a little bit more dye there and a few ice pieces at the end of the vinyl guttering. That part is kind of thick, and so I want the dye right at the end, and I want the ice so that it will run down into that dye and fully saturate that area. After I added the ice on the shirt, I placed the shirt aside and I allowed the ice to melt. After this first layer of ice melted, I did have some undissolved dye, so I went ahead and placed a really long, thick piece of ice, which I made in, I think it's a container to hold pencils, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store. After that large chunk of ice melted, if you'll notice, I do still have a few light pieces which were not fully saturated with dye. I went ahead and turned the shirt over though, and added some dye to the back side of the shirt. Because this fold is so thick, I usually add dye to the front and the back just to make sure I get good color saturation throughout the shirt. I'm going to use the same dye pattern on the back side of the shirt, and then I'm going to add on another large chunk of ice to the top portion of the shirt where it's so thick, and some smaller cubes to the bottom portion of the shirt. I placed the shirt aside so that the ice could melt. And after all the ice melted, I noticed I still had a couple of those lighter spots that were on the front side of the shirt. So I did go ahead and turn the shirt over and add some dye just to those areas. I added some more dry soda ash to the top of the dye, and then just a couple ice cubes on this specific area. The rest of the shirt looks like it has pretty good color saturation. After these couple of ice cubes melted, I left the shirt alone and allowed it to process. And it was really cold, so I didn't really want to rinse out the shirt in the cold garage, so I left the shirt for probably about a week before I rinsed it. And to rinse the shirt, I rinsed like normal. I started out in my utility sink, rinsing in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then I untied the shirt, warmed the water up to hot, and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I don't like rinsing for a long time, so instead I usually soak the shirts. And to do that, I ran some really hot water in my utility sink, added some Blue Dawn dish soap to the water, placed the shirt inside, and I allowed it to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out, and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I placed the shirt along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine, and I washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed the shirt, and let's see what this one looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one is really cool. The Pro Chemical colors that I used in general are really good color splitters. I love that spicy plum, which is the color that's going right through the middle of the shirt that has the green color split. That's a really cool color. And then right outside of that, you see the Wedgwood blue, and outside of that, you see the eggplant. And by the way, if you're wondering, Pro Chemical's eggplant is not exactly like Dharma's eggplant. They are a little bit different, but they're both really pretty colors. I also use Stormy Sky, which is a great color splitter, but it's kind of down on the sleeves of the shirt, and you can't see it very well. Same thing with Rose Wine. That's a pretty color too, but because they're on the outer edges of the shirt, you can't really, those colors are not standout colors on this shirt. Also, because all the colors ran that way, the color splits in those colors don't show up so well. So kind of keep that in mind. That's one reason why I used the spicy plum where I did, is I know that color split's really pretty, and so I wanted those color splits to be very forefront on the shirt. So overall, I love this shirt. I think it's really pretty, love the color splits, but what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it, and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.